The warnings from Tehran took on a sharper edge on February 15. According to Press TV and IRNA, as reported by Global Security, Major General Abdolrahim Musavi, Chief of Staff of Iran Armed Forces, warned that any military confrontation with Iran would serve as a harsh lesson for Washington. Musavi said, according to Press TV, that Trump should know that he would be entering a confrontation that gives harsh lessons, the outcome of which would ensure that he no longer bellows threats around the world. The statement was directed explicitly at Trump's recent comments about regime change and military force, and represented one of the most pointed warnings from Iran military establishment since the current crisis began. According to Al-Bawaba, Musavi was promoted to his current position after his predecessor was killed during the 12-day war between Israel, the United States, and Iran in June 2025, a detail that adds personal weight to his warnings about the consequences of military action. Musavi's statement came just 2 days after Trump told reporters, according to Al-Mayadeen, that if Iran does not make a deal, the United States would have to go to Phase 2, without elaborating on what that phase would entail. The ambiguity of the remark was interpreted by Iranian officials and media as further evidence of Washington's psychological warfare campaign, reinforcing the narrative that American threats are designed to coerce rather than communicate a genuine intention to negotiate. Musavi did not limit his remarks to warnings. According to IRNA, as reported by Global Security, the general described Trump's statements as not worthy of a president and reckless language that directly challenged the credibility of American threats. He also questioned the logic of simultaneously threatening war and offering negotiations, asking, according to the Middle East Monitor citing Anadolu Agency, if Trump intends to wage war, why does he talk about negotiations? The framing was deliberate, presenting Iran posture as defensive and rational, while casting Washington approach as contradictory and driven by psychological pressure rather than genuine strategic intent. According to WANA News, Musavi emphasized that Iran would not initiate a conflict, but would respond with force to any aggression, framing Tehran's position as rooted in sovereignty and the right to self-defense. According to Al-Bawaba, Ebrahim Rezaieh, a member of the Iranian Parliament National Security and Foreign Policy Committee, said that Tehran is not overly hopeful about the Geneva talks. According to the same outlet, Rezaieh confirmed that the Iranian delegation has prepared a list of proposals, but stressed that Iran will not agree to halt enrichment or ship its uranium stockpile abroad during this round, adding that the United States has accepted these limits and that the Geneva discussions will not address Iran's missile program. Media aligned with the Iranian system amplified Musavi's statements within a broader narrative. According to multiple Iranian outlets, these declarations came after weeks of increasingly harsh rhetoric from Trump and accusations by Tehran that Washington and Tel Aviv had encouraged the January protests to destabilize the Islamic Republic. The framing connects Trump military threats to what Iranian officials describe as a coordinated campaign of maximum pressure that includes sanctions, military deployments, and support for internal unrest. According to People Daily Online, citing IRNA, Musavi's warning came as both sides prepare for the possibility that diplomacy might fail, with analysts widely noting that the upcoming Geneva talks on Tuesday may test whether negotiation can still offer a path forward. According to Euronews, the protests that shook Iran beginning on December 28, 2025, were sparked by currency collapse and hyperinflation, but grew into widespread unrest that posed a significant challenge to authorities. Tehran has accused Washington and Israel of fomenting the unrest, a charge that Western governments reject. Rights groups and some media allege a high death toll in the crackdown that followed, but the numbers cannot be independently verified due to restricted access. The unrest has become a central element of Trump rhetoric against the Iranian government and his justification for the military buildup. The military dimension of Iran warnings extends to specific operational threats. According to the Critical Threats Project at the American Enterprise Institute, Iranian officials and allied media have emphasized that any United States attack could trigger a regional war with consequences for American bases across the Persian Gulf Israeli territory, and navigation through the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea. According to Euronews, Iran could strike oil infrastructure and mine the Strait of Hormuz, through which approximately one-fifth of global oil is transported. Iranian analysts and pro-government outlets describe what they call a multi-dimensional response capability, including ballistic missiles, drones, proxy attacks, and threats to strategic maritime routes. According to Critical Threats, Iran previously struck the United States base at Al Udeid in Qatar during the June 2025 war, an action that Tehran now presents as a precedent for what would follow a direct American assault. According to the Washington Post, as cited by Critical Threats, Gulf states have specifically warned Washington that Iran retains short-range ballistic missiles and mobile launchers that survived the June 2025 strikes and could be used to hit American interests across the Persian Gulf region, including in countries that host United States military installations. According to CBS and Maritime Reporting, on February 3rd, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps boats attempted to pressure a United States flagged tanker to stop in the Strait of Hormuz, an incident that underscored Iran's ability to threaten the critical waterway even as diplomatic talks continued. The Strait of Hormuz handles roughly 20% of global oil transit, and any sustained disruption would have immediate consequences for energy markets worldwide, adding an economic dimension to the military calculus that constrains Washington options. Tehran warnings carry operational weight because of recent precedent. During the 12-day war between Israel and Iran in June 2025, Iran and its network of allied militias carried out coordinated attacks against military bases and naval assets. According to multiple reports, the June conflict saw Iran launch missile strikes against Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. According to Critical Threats, while Houthi forces in Yemen continued their campaign against shipping in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden, according to USNI News, the United States struck more than 1,000 Houthi targets between March and May 2025 during a separate campaign against the group. Iranian officials and allied media now present those coordinated operations as a template for what would happen if the United States initiated a direct war, arguing that Tehran can activate multiple fronts simultaneously across the region. According to Critical Threats, citing Ali Shamkhani interview with a Hezbollah-affiliated outlet on February 2nd, Iran will definitely continue to support what it calls the Axis of Resistance, a network that includes Hezbollah in Lebanon, Houthi forces in Yemen, and armed groups in Iraq and Syria. Some Iranian policymakers, according to a United Kingdom-based Middle East outlet cited by Critical Threats, have concluded that limited retaliatory strikes are no longer sufficient deterrents, and that only the credible threat of a prolonged, costly regional war can prevent the United States from attacking. The coordination between Iran and its regional allies was on display in the days leading up to Mousavi's statement. According to Hezbollah-aligned social media accounts and media outlets, the Iran-backed movement in Yemen posted an image on the social media platform X showing a United States aircraft carrier overlaid with a bright red bullseye, an explicit signal that the warship was being singled out as a target. In accompanying text, the Houthis mocked the United States, claiming that what they called a worthless carrier had been forced to flee the Red Sea under their pressure. The post came shortly after Houthi defense media released video footage showing radar arrays and missile batteries, material designed to advertise the group readiness to challenge United States and Israeli aircraft operating in the region. Some analysts say the timing of these posts, appearing just hours before Mousavi's statement, may reflect aligned messaging between Tehran and its allies, but there is no public proof of direct operational coordination. Social media accounts aligned with the Iranian Axis circulated the imagery alongside Mousavi warnings, creating a unified visual and rhetorical front that projects the image of a coalition prepared to engage the United States on multiple fronts simultaneously. The Houthi air defense video, released through channels linked to what Ansar Allah describes as its Ministry of Defense, displayed mobile radar arrays and surface-to-air missile systems positioned in terrain that suggested preparation for sustained defensive operations. The footage was accompanied by commentary emphasizing the group experience in engaging American and coalition aircraft during the March to May 2025 United States air campaign, which CENTCOM said struck more than 1,000 Houthi targets across Yemen. The Houthi narrative centers on claims of forcing American naval forces to reposition. According to Newsweek, citing Houthi military spokesperson Yahya Sari, the group claimed to have carried out multiple attacks against the USS Harry S. Truman carrier strike group in the Red Sea, using ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones. The Houthis claimed, according to Newsweek, that their operations forced the Truman to depart toward the northern Red Sea and the Suez Canal. The United States has not confirmed that the carrier repositioned due to Houthi pressure, though USNI News reported that the Truman did move between operational areas during its deployment. The Houthis exploit any repositioning as a symbolic victory, presenting it as proof that their combined pressure can bend American military power without requiring a direct conventional war. According to Newsweek, the Houthis have carried out over 100 attacks on vessels in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden since 2023, disrupting a vital maritime trade route that accounts for approximately 12% of global shipping. The group halted attacks when a Gaza ceasefire was declared in January 2025, but resumed them after Israel blocked humanitarian aid to Gaza in March. According to Anadolu Agency, United States Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stated, according to Newsweek, that operations against the Houthis would be unrelenting until hostilities cease, while Houthi leader Abdul Malik al-Houthi vowed that the American aggression would continue to fail. The Houthi propaganda effort also seized on operational incidents to bolster its narrative. According to Newsweek, an Fa-18E Super Hornet fell overboard from the USS Truman into the Red Sea during operations, an incident the United States Navy confirmed while launching an investigation. Satellite imagery analyzed by Newsweek showed the Truman making a sharp turn in the water days before the incident in what naval analysts suggested could have been an evasive maneuver. According to Responsible Statecraft, the United States has spent approximately $3 billion on its anti-Houthi campaign, with CNN reporting that the operation has achieved only limited results against the group's largely underground arsenal. The Houthis use these incidents and assessments to argue that they are imposing unsustainable costs on the American military, a narrative that aligns with Tehran's broader message of resistance. According to Responsible Statecraft, Pentagon officials acknowledged in closed briefings, as reported by the New York Times, that there has been only limited success in destroying the Houthis' vast, largely underground arsenal of missiles, drones, and launchers. The admission feeds into the broader Iranian narrative that sustained proxy warfare imposes costs on the United States that Washington cannot sustain indefinitely, particularly when stretched across multiple theaters. Military analysts note that the decision to maintain 2 carrier strike groups in the region serves a dual purpose. According to Newsweek and USNI News, the deployment is linked both to the ongoing campaign against the Houthis in the Red Sea and to the need to demonstrate to Iran that Washington can sustain intensive air operations even if the crisis escalates. The prolonged deployment of multiple carrier strike groups in the Middle East carries significant costs for the United States Navy global readiness, according to USNI News. But the White House considers the deterrence message to Tehran and its proxies worth the strain. According to The Aviationist, the current deployment of the USS Gerald R. Ford will mark its 3rd Atlantic transit during a single deployment, an unusual operational tempo that reflects the urgency Washington attaches to the Iran standoff. According to USNI News, the Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Daryl Caudle, acknowledged that extended deployments disrupt the lives of the approximately 4,500 crew members aboard each carrier, affecting planned marriages, funerals, and family milestones. The Navy is also contending with maintenance backlogs as the last carrier to undergo a similarly extended deployment, the USS Eisenhower, saw its overhaul at Naval Station Norfolk extended by more than a year and a half, according to The Aviationist. The strain on carrier availability is compounded by the planned decommissioning of the USS Nimitz, the oldest active carrier in the fleet, which will further reduce the number of deployable ships as the Navy works to recapitalize its surface and carrier forces. According to the Maritime Executive, the Wall Street Journal reported that the USS George H.W. Bush, currently completing drills off the Virginia coast, is also being prepared for potential deployment, raising the prospect of a third carrier in the theater if the crisis deepens. The Iranian narrative weaves these elements into a unified message. According to Iranian state media and allied outlets, the repositioning of United States carriers in the Red Sea and the operational costs imposed by Houthi attacks demonstrate that the combination of proxy pressure and regional coordination can challenge American military dominance without requiring a direct state-on-state confrontation. Social media accounts aligned with the Iranian axis amplify Mousavi warnings, alongside imagery of Houthi weapon systems, drones, radar installations, and missile batteries, projecting the image of a unified front prepared to confront American carriers and bases across the region. The narrative is designed to reinforce the concept of transnational resistance, a core element of Tehran's strategic doctrine since the establishment of the Islamic Republic. The coordination extends to messaging discipline, with Mousavi statements, Shamkhani warnings, and Houthi provocations appearing within hours of each other, creating the impression of a unified command structure that can direct pressure against the United States from multiple geographic positions simultaneously. Analysts note, however, that the actual operational coordination between Iran and its proxies varies significantly, and that the messaging alignment may reflect shared strategic interests rather than direct tactical coordination. From Washington perspective, the military buildup and diplomatic pressure form two sides of the same strategy. According to Reuters, United States officials describe the carrier deployments, troop reinforcements, and expanded strike planning as elements of a maximum pressure campaign designed to force concessions from Tehran on its nuclear program, ballistic missiles, and support for regional proxies. Trump has made clear, according to PBS, that all options remain on the table and that negotiations must produce results. At the same time, according to Reuters, Trump has suggested that a deal could come within the next month, insisting that his declared objective is an agreement rather than a war. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told reporters in Bratislava, according to People Daily Online, that no one has ever been able to do a successful deal with Iran, but we are going to try. Trump himself told reporters on Thursday, according to the Associated Press, that a deal should happen within the next month and that Iran should agree very quickly. He added that if they do not make a deal, it is going to be a different story, while specifying that his preference remains a negotiated outcome. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, following his Washington meeting with Trump, suggested, according to Al Jazeera, that Trump is determined to exhaust the possibilities of achieving a deal which he believes can be achieved now. European and regional diplomats have expressed growing concern that the brinkmanship could spiral beyond anyone's control. According to Iran International, Gulf states that host United States forces have pressed Washington against strikes, warning that they would be the first targets in any Iranian retaliation. According to the same outlet, European leaders, including Germany Friedrich Merz, have urged restraint even as the European Union moved to designate the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization. The principal risk, according to diplomatic sources cited by multiple outlets, lies in a miscalculation, an accidental naval encounter, a drone intercept that escalates, or a limited strike that triggers a cycle of retaliation neither side can control. The February 3rd shootdown of an Iranian drone near the USS Abraham Lincoln and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps gunboat incident in the Strait of Hormuz illustrate how narrow the margin for error has become. According to Iran International, the European Union Foreign Policy Chief, Josep Borrell, described the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps designation as a decisive step while simultaneously cautioning that the region does not need another war, underscoring Europe's own balancing act between pressure and restraint. The conflicting signals from multiple capitals, combining military escalation with diplomatic engagement, define a crisis where the line between deterrence and provocation has become dangerously thin.